guys, thanks for clicking on the video. I just wanted to thank you for giving me a moment of your time to talk about things. I know this quarantine is causing a lot of heartache, not being able to go to the gym and such, so just know that I feel you and we'll get through this, and let's get right into the video. Now, I know a lot of you might be going to the gym and have potentially ceased your training completely since all this coronavirus has started and kind of shut down gyms and such. But I do want you to know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel and everything is going to be okay. But in the meantime, you may have noticed a couple different changes in your body, and this is warranted due to something called detraining. Now, detraining is based off the principle of reversibility, meaning that basically if your muscle does not have a great enough stimulus or any stimulus, that it can reverse all the progress that you built. So basically, you've probably heard this a lot, the use it or lose it phenomenon of lifting. There is some obviously bad things about this. All your hard work has gone to waste. However, there are some good things to look for in the end. So initially, something you might ask yourself is, how long does detraining take before it actually becomes noticeable? And the answer is, it depends. For a lot of people, depending on what their lifting level is, how long they've been lifting, how hard they lift, what type of lifting they do, it can vary tremendously. In addition to this, if you're somebody who does a lot of endurance training, this is a completely different type of training that works different muscle fiber types as well. So the good thing is about stopping your training is that there is a small lag time from when you cease the training to when you actually notice strength and muscle decline. For recreational lifters, you'll start to notice some strength decline in about 4 to 6 weeks of stopping training. Moving longer, of about 8 to 12 weeks, you'll notice about a 7 to 12% decrease in strength. Now, honestly, for the most part, this is a pretty small decline in my eyes, at least. Especially if you're a recreational lifter, you're not going to be lifting those huge numbers. So 7 to 12% is not going to be a very large poundage. If you are a more trained athlete, specifically somebody who focuses on power, speed, and agility, you will notice your those different aspects of fitness degrade a little bit quicker. However, even in trained athletes, the first 2 weeks usually show very small, if not no decrements in speed, power, strength, and size. Something that is interesting to note is that your levels of strength rarely dip lower than your pre-training levels of strength. For example, if I'm lifting only 50 pounds on a bench press when I start, after I progress in training a little bit and then drop off the training, I will very rarely go below 50 and often will stay a little bit above 50. This shows that there are some potential permanent changes in both your neurological components of lifting as well as the actual anatomy of the muscle cell as well. Something that I did mention earlier is that there is different fiber type distributions based on what kind of athlete you are and what kind of training you specifically do. So for an individual that does mostly endurance training, a lot of their muscle fiber types are going to be endurance fibers. So when we talk about fibers, there's type 1 and type 2 fibers. Type 2 fibers have a couple different variations, being type 2A and type 2X. Basically, type 1 is your endurance fiber, and the type 2A is also a somewhat endurance fiber, but also somewhat power, speed, and strength fiber. Type 2X is solely a speed, strength, and power type of fiber. So once you lift for a while, some of those type A fibers start slowly transitioning over to your type 2X fibers. Whereas if you are somebody who does mainly endurance training, when you first start doing endurance training, those type 2X fibers will slowly transition to type 2A fibers, giving you more aerobic capacity. So when you initially stop training, there is no noticeable difference in the fiber type distribution. So if you are somebody who does a lot of weightlifting, let's say you have a 50% type 1 fibers and maybe 20% type 2A, 30% type 2B, when you stop training, those distributions might not change that much. However, after a few weeks, I'd say anything longer than 2 to 3 weeks, that's when you're going to start noticing a shift in your fiber type. So as we know with exercise physiology, you can't necessarily change type 1 fibers to type 2. However, the type 2A and the type 2X can kind of coincide a little bit. So if you're normally a weightlifter, you're going to have more type 2X fibers. After stopping lifting, this is actually going to slowly move over to the type 2A fibers, so more oxidative fibers. If you are somebody who does mostly endurance training, you're going to actually kind of revert back to the type 2X fibers. So you might have more type 2A fibers and slowly move over to those type 2X fibers when you cease your training for endurance activities. And of course, now we'll talk about hypertrophy or general muscle size. This is usually lost at about 2 to 3 weeks after stopping training. But as I've mentioned numerous times, there is some good news to this, and that is what we like to call muscle memory. Now, muscle memory is something that's being studied heavily. Muscle memory is essentially the ability to regain strength and muscular hypertrophy quickly after a cessation of training. In other words, if you trained a lot and got a certain amount of strength and size, once you lose that after stopping training, you'll gain it back quicker than when you initially gained it. So say it took maybe 3 months to gain your initial strength and size, and you stop training, it may only take 1 month or 2 months to get that strength and size back instead. This is in part for two different reasons. The first one involving around strength. So when we talk about strength, this is mainly a byproduct of your nervous system becoming more efficient in a movement. When you practice a movement more, the motor patterns get more ingrained throughout your body, and you're able to do that more efficiently, thus being able to potentially lift stronger. If you're doing a bench press, the more you do a bench press, the more your body gets used to it, the stronger you get. Next time you do an activity, your brain is able to kind of pick up on that activity extremely quickly, leading you to learn it better and essentially learning it entirely new. You're just relearning it. So that's why the strength kind of increases rapidly. Perhaps the more interesting thing in my eyes is the long-term changes a muscle belly has after hypertrophy. So a non-trained muscle fiber still has some myonuclei or muscle cell. However, once we increase training stimulus, this is when we notice a slight increase in the myonuclei or muscle cells within a muscle fiber. In addition to this, a bigger muscle or a hypertrophied muscle exists. Once we cease training, we notice that myonuclei that our body worked for actually is not lost, even if the size of the muscle decreases. The myonuclei still being intact is arguably why it is so easy to regain lost muscle size after stopping training. So this is extremely good news if you've had an extended layoff from the gym. Basically, you can look forward to having a rapid period of growth and strength once you first get back. And I think that's pretty motivating because a lot of people are getting pretty depressed if they're a constant gym goer right now. But some things you definitely can and should do in the meantime are trying to do as much as you can to maintain strength and maintain size. And this can be done if you don't have any equipment through bodyweight training. There's a lot of articles online in how you can move your body without any weights, anything, and this will help tremendously. Don't downplay bodyweight training. There's actually a lot of different hard variations. You just gonna have to do some digging. And of course, if you've never actually dove into aerobic training, first thing that comes to mind is running. I'd highly encourage you to start trying to incorporate some running, maybe some fast walking into a routine. Not only is this good for health, it's potentially something that you're not used to and can find a new activity that you really enjoy. So once again, thanks for clicking on the video. If you did like the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Share this with others that might be a frequent gym goer and aren't able to go. Let them know there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And yeah, so we'll see you in that next video. Bye.